Greetings and welcome to the pod. My name is Mark West. Lauren Tischendorf is the first woman to swim solo around Lord Howe Island. 32.2 kilometres of sharks, currents, 25 knot winds and 2.5 metre swell, finishing in 13 hours, 50 minutes and 26 seconds. She has also filmed a documentary of the swim called I Just Went for a Swim, highlighting the spectacular ocean as well as the importance of empowerment of girls and women. You can watch the film throughout Australia very soon in the Women's Adventure Film Festival. I started off by asking, as always, whether Lauren had always been an ocean swimmer.
No, not really. I sort of swam a bit in the ocean, and I did a lot of pool when I was younger, but it was only until I moved to Sydney a couple of years ago to the eastern beaches that I got into ocean swimming.
You're from South Africa? And
I'm South Africa originally, yes.
yeah, and then, well, it's very easy to see how you could get into ocean swimming. Living at Bondi in the eastern suburbs is pretty nice.
It is, and it's just on your doorstep, and there's only so many times you can dip in and out of the ocean, and I guess being an active person lying on the beach doesn't always cut it for me. So trying to get in and get in and out of the waves and that kind of thing is, yeah, it's really refreshing. I enjoyed.
And so how did you go from not being an ocean swimmer to just a couple of years later being the first woman to swim around Lord Howe Island?
I don't know. I kind of maybe it became slightly addictive. The feeling, being in the ocean is, it's quite rejuvenative. And, was training in the ocean a couple of times a week with a swim group, Bondi Fit with Spot Anderson. And from there, I kind of just started pushing myself to do longer distances, just, out of curiosity of, going exploring in different parts of the waters that we sort of swim in. And so, yeah, I just got further and further, and I sort of do endurance. I've done endurance running as well. So that idea of pushing myself and seeing how far I can go, I guess, was just something that naturally happened for me.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I like to try and push myself, but I haven't pushed myself as far as 35 kilometres around an island.
No, I don't think many people would. Yeah.
That's really cool. So how long did it take you to prepare for this once you decided that this was something you wanted to do?
It was a combination of a couple of things. I was already naturally training just for fitness and I guess general health, the same distance as you would if you were going to maybe perhaps train for, swimming the English Channel. And so, a couple of some colleagues were doing those kind of distances, and I was just training with them anyway. So it was only probably about the December before I swam that I started increasing my mileage, and my time in the water, sort of from about 2 hours, a session to sometimes, 4, 5 hours, 6 hours a session. So it was probably only about 4 months out from my actual swim that I did, adjust my training significantly. Otherwise, I was already kind of doing, 135-ish odd kilometers a month anyway.
That's still a pretty rapid improvement, isn't it? To
Yeah.
get in. Yeah. And so how did you cope with all that extra training? Obviously well enough to be able to do the swim.
It's just a lot of early mornings, late afternoons, and just, my weekends, just spend training in order and then recovering, yeah.
Wow. And so how was the swim? How did you feel? Did it feel completely different to any of these training sessions? I mean, I guess it was much longer for one.
Yeah, it was certainly much longer and a lot more than I'd anticipated. There were a lot more sharks than I'd seen before. And, there was a section where I was really stuck in currents, and I knew I'd be stuck in currents. And I've, swum in, adverse currents before, but I think, being stuck in, a non-moving, swimming in the same spot for about 2 hours and not getting anywhere is quite tricky. And it just, yeah, nothing ever kind of, as much as you might train, it sort of doesn't prepare you when you have everything all at once at one time. And so you just have to kind of, yeah, just push through.
Wow. So that must have been quite mentally tough. I mean, physically, I'm sure it's very hard to sit in the one spot well, not sit in the one spot, but
Yeah.
swim in the one spot. But
But yeah,
but mentally, that must have been really tough.
it was. And I think that's where, swimming, ocean swimming is one of those sports where you do spend a lot of time by yourself. And to a lot of my long swims, I'd start off with a group, or I'd train by myself, and then start my session by myself, and then end up with join pals would join in afterwards, or I'd just go out and do them by myself. And so I guess in those kinds of training sessions, that what kind of prepares you, and you kind of just have to, your mental game has to be stronger than almost anything else, I think.
So how did you get out of that 2 hour spot? Did the currents change, or were you gradually knocking it off centimeter by centimeter?
Just gradually knocking it off, and the winds, the winds kind of changed, and the time of day had changed. So everything was kind of slowly moving, but yeah, not at the speed I'd initially anticipated.
Oh, that's incredible. And the shark story you mentioned there is incredible. Not just seeing them, but I read that you saw some and they were hanging around just a meter or two below you. And
Yeah, they were.
That's amazing.
And I think it was just, I mean, I knew where they were going to be. There's a big section around, it's called Blinky's Beach, sort of towards the southern point, I guess, of the island. And that's where, I knew they were going to be, and it was just trying to be as relaxed and as cool as you can be, and every night, I started off counting them and letting the crew know how many I'd seen, and kind of after I got to about 12 or 13, I was like, there's enough counting, letting go, and I'm like, that's all they need to know. And they did. Some of them followed me, many of them, and trailed me. They sort of hung out underneath, and I guess I was swimming in their territory, so it was just making, trying not to be agitated by them, because sharks pick up on human changes and your energies and that kind of thing. So it was just trying to maintain being cool and calm.
Wow. And you had to change your nutrition intake during this period because you didn't want to get food in the water to attract more sharks. Is that right?
Yeah, it was like there's a number of reasons, but I guess it was that idea also of just every time I'd stop, they'd come a lot closer, and because of the currents and the swell was quite big at this time, everything was taking so much longer to happen. So it was just a way of just trying to eliminate one of the margins of area that could occur. And I know fairly well how much I can sustain on and how much, I can, swim without and with. So, I'd made sure that the start of my swim, in the morning and the night before, I was really well nutritioned, that, after a little while, I mean, obviously I was a little bit slower, but it certainly didn't. It wasn't like I was starving and dying kind of thing. I was very well fed.
Did they leave you alone eventually?
Yeah, sort of after I rounded the south end of the island, they'd left. But then at that point it was, turned the bottom of the island, heading up. And by then, it was heading towards dusk. And then there's, and getting into the reef, and the reef sharks have a feeding frenzy around us. So it was just,
oh, good.
They
yeah.
were always, it was trying to beat getting into the lagoon at that point. And I only saw one sort of shark later on in the evening, just in the reef, and he was swimming underneath me. It was fine.
So apart from sharks, what did you think about during the swim? And what do you think about when you swim long distances in general? It's a very long time by yourself.
Yeah, it is. I think a lot of it, it was, the scenery was just magnificent. I was really just watching the scenery. It was just remarkable, and the bird life was really incredible. So, a lot of the time you're just taking it in, thinking about, counting your strokes and your breathing, trying to maintain a rhythm, just to maintain your pace is quite often quite important, especially for using your energy reserve. So a lot of that is that reflecting on, people I knew, or situations that were going on, and I kind of thought, well, maybe by the end of the swim I would have solved all the world's problems, but that did not happen, and I think that sometimes when you are swimming by yourself, sometimes you might ruminate about things, and, sometimes you solve the problems, sometimes you don't, but, it's just a good time, to be in the water and reflect.
I guess, I mean, and so how many of the world's problems did you solve? Many?
None. None. And I kind of think even in the last few months, in the last month, the whole world has become totally fractured and crazy, and it's just, there's so much you could think of doing and want to do, and it, becomes all overwhelming, and you wonder where you could start.
So what do you see as the next swimming challenge? Because just judging by your history of ultra events and whatnot, I can't imagine this is the end.
No, there are lots of things I want to try and do, and I guess it's just, I think it's very hard at the moment to be locked in with our restrictions and planning and thinking things. But, there's some things that I'm keen on trying. There are things like the Rottnest Channel I've not done before, and I want to do with friends, because I find swimming with, a whole group of friends, it's nice to have a festival kind of event to share those things with. So, there are a couple of big things also, but it's just it's all just quite training at the moment.
No, it really is, isn't it? It's hard to aim for things, but Rottnest would be great. I discovered when I was Googling you, I've done a few events with you. We've probably looked at each other, some of the Bondi events, Bondi Blue Water, and North Bondi Swims and whatnot.
No way, that's super cool.
You're a little bit quicker than me, but and Malabar was another one. So we have done some of the same events. They're great.
Yeah, they are. I'm very not. I'm not a big fan of racing. Sprinting is something I steer clear from. I would far rather be in the ocean than doing Friday 50s in the pool.
Yes. So what's a sprint then for you? Being a long distance swimmer, is a 1 kilometre swim a sprint?
Yeah, I think a 1 kilometre is a sprint. And sometimes, generally, it'll often only take me 2.5 k's to warm up.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty tired by that point.
Yeah, and that's it. And sometimes I forget that that's only when, you warm up. But yeah, no, I kind of like a 1K can be quite good if you're well warmed up. But yeah, 5 and 10Ks are good.
And so how do you... So, because I noticed you've done like Comrades Marathon and Canberra Ultra Marathon, very different sort of training for that, very different nutrition as well. How do you cope? How does your body cope with these different types of endurance events?
I think it's trying to manage it and manage your time. Interestingly, the nutrition, for some of it's quite similar. So a lot of I have a nutritionist who I see, Lisa, and she's fantastic, and she's and so my nutrition for my swim and for my full Comrades is actually quite similar. It's the same idea of your sugars and your carbohydrates, electrolytes, replacing them. In swimming, if anything, you have to be more cognizant of dehydration. You don't realize you're becoming dehydrated when you're even as much as you're in order. So I was still having sweet potato. I'd have a Comrades, and I was still having that in my swim. And I generally wasn't having veggie sandwiches were one thing that I was having at the swim that I wasn't having at Comrades. But those were definitely part of my nutrition. But I think the recovery, a lot of it is just a lot of rest. Rehydration, magnesium, that kind of thing.
I'm kind of excited by this. So this looks really cool. The Women's Adventure Film Festival, and I noticed there are some online tickets, which is good for these modern COVID days. And you've got a film in that. What's that all about?
Yeah, so I think so. I'd already was kind of thinking of replanning my swim, and the film's an advertisement for the to win a grant to make a film for this film festival came up, and it's one of my favorite film festivals. I think it was one of the earlier ones that I went and watched, and I always found them to be quite remarkable. But I love the idea of the cinematography that goes behind them, and I thought, oh, well, that would be quite cool to make a film about my swim. So yeah, we made a film about my swim, and I won the award, and that helped in part to the making of the film. And as much as we took some great footage of the swim because of the terrible conditions. It's just the quality of footage we could get was just quite minimalistic. But we put the director put in a great film for the festival. So yeah, people can, if you're in places where you can go to the cinemas, people can go watch it. Otherwise, yeah, it's online with the Adventure Film Festival at the moment.
I've just got it open in front of me right now, and yeah, it's all around the country. I guess.
It's all around the country, and it's but it's still sort of astounding to me is that there people like Lucy Bartholomew, who's an amazing ultra runner, and Tora Bright, who's just phenomenal at what she does with snow sports. So to have a film next to that was quite intimidating.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that must have been a real thrill for you, because I know you're a really big advocate of women in sport and gender equity and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And I think so much of the world, we all need to be encouraging and supporting each other, but it's that idea of women, championing each other and lifting each other up is so important. And that, so often in sports, that often is forgotten because we're all competing, but it's that idea of, competing for yourself and, uplifting each other. That's so important.
And so what's next, do you think? You mentioned Rottnest, but where does the future of Lauren go?
I think it's still a developing piece. To think, there are things that I would like to try, and I'd like to test myself. I'd love to test myself. On the weekend, we've got a 48-hour Pledge for the Planet event where you can do different kinds of sports and earn points, and those points go towards reducing carbon emissions from the environment. And I wouldn't mind challenging myself to a couple of hours this weekend. But yeah, there are a couple of things long term, but those are kind of all under wraps at the moment.
Okay. More movies?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see.
And I also just found out that you work with Code Like a Girl, which is pretty cool. My daughter was going to do one of them, but something fell through. But so that's another gender equity area.
Absolutely. I'm not working with them at the moment, but they are phenomenal at what they do in, being the face and being a vision for girls, so that they can see other women, in the field of technology, which is just such an undeveloped part of, the working world at the moment.
And so if people want to find out more about your adventures and more about this advocacy and maybe watch some films, what should they do? How should they find you?
I've got a website. It's just laurentischendorf.com. And then I've got an Instagram account where that's kind of often quite populated with things that are going on. So yeah, and I'm always happy to chat to people and, hear ideas or, anything. I think it's, always important to connect with people.
I found you on Strava too. So
I can be found in Strava.
I can look at your kilometers and go, I wish I could do that.
I'm very selective about when I go because I get too many questions about why I'm training so much.
thank you very much to Lauren Tischendorf for taking the time to take us on a journey around Lord Howe Island. If you'd like any more information on anything you've heard in this episode, please get over to the website at www.thepodpodcast.net. That's www.thepodpodcast.net. And up there I have some links to Lauren's movie and to the Women's Adventure Film Festival. You can also find Lauren, and myself actually, lurking on the socials, but I'll leave that as an exercise for the listener. Thanks very much. I'll catch you next time on the pod.